right, and we'll be back from the break, and thank you very much for being part of Smart Means Business here. Be the first to know the latest information regarding business and the latest when it comes to everything business space, market space, and what available information had you missed, and you can be the first to know by getting that from here. Well, and when you look at some of the situation that is actually coming in from the details here regarding business reports, and we take a look at the press review from the business reports that are making headlines from the papers. Well, and we start off with what is coming in from details regarding the Daily Monitor, as Kenya is yet to receive Uganda's request to increase fuel quota. And according to the details that are coming in, Kenya has said that whereas it has not yet received the letter in which Uganda requests for an increase in allocated monthly petroleum import quotas, the process requires consultations that might take some time before a decision is ably taken. In a phone interview that was actually made, Kenya's Energy Principal Secretary Andrew Kamau said that he had not received the letter, nothing would respond, and when and only whether he receives or he doesn't receive it. So, and last week the Energy Ministry Permanent Secretary Pauline Irene Batebe indicated that Kenya was yet to respond to her April 11th letter in which she had sought the country's intervention by increasing monthly petroleum import quotas allocated in Uganda in a bid to see that the increase by almost 40% in just 3 months. It was not immediately clear how fast Uganda expects Kenya to handle the matter, given the threat that the runaway fuel prices present to the larger economy. So that is where we're actually heading as a country. Clearly there is a lot of situations that is actually coming in from the papers in regards to let's say business reports and fuel prices, to be precise. We apparently, with even our next report that we're going to be having, shows you how the taxi fares have actually increased. And not only that, now every time fuel increases, you expect a lot of things to increase. Why? Because the cost of production has to definitely but apparently what you should definitely see is that people should get to understand that the cost of production will increase, and once the cost of production increases, is that you need to ably understand that, one, transportation will have to increase, and then from the industries where these commodities actually got from, you would clearly get to understand that surely things become harder and harder day in, day out. And it's something that we've actually been highlighting, that future prospects warn us, and according to what is coming in from the Russia-Ukraine war, we expected that the fuel prices may not stabilize, because week in, week out, most of the fuel prices have been increasing, and the fuel stations have been increasing from, let's say, 100 to 150 to 200 shillings, let's say, from all that. And away from that particular situation, let's as well look at take a look at what is coming in from the other angle of the press review, as according to details coming in here, Uganda Airlines makes 7 billion shillings from chartered flights in the last 3 months. That is according to the reports that are coming through, and this was about 7.6 billion in the first 3 months of the year. The money was collected from 10 chartered flights, as the 6 flights were paid for by mainly private clients who were actually heading to Mogadishu, Somalia, while 3 were hired for the first son, Lieutenant General Mozi Kainerugaba, as he was making his visits, his diplomatic visits. There was one in Rwanda, there was the other, he went to Egypt. So clearly these are some of the situations that have actually brought in this particular 7.6 billion that has been collected by the Uganda Airlines in regards to that particular one. Now when you look at this particular one, the 3 were actually hired by the first son and the late former speaker Jacob Olanya. 9 of the other flights were operated by the airline CRJ 900 aircraft, while the one to Seattle, which took the late speaker to Parliament, that that is the late Right Honorable Jacob Olanya, was the Airbus A330-800 Neo aircraft. And according to the sources at the airline, State House and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs paid a total of about 964 million shillings for General Muhoozi's 3 trips. General Muhoozi, who is the commander of the land forces of the Uganda People's Defense Forces, UPDF, flew twice to Kigali, Rwanda, and once to Cairo, Egypt. And General Muhoozi's trip to Kigali was seen as part of Uganda's efforts to mend its relations with Rwanda, which had resulted in the closure of the Gatuna border for 3 years. In February, Parliament paid the airline $500,000 US, which is about 1.7 billion shillings, to fly the late Olanya to the USA for medical treatment. And Bamturachi says that the airline is making money from, among others, operating chartered flights. And she, however, declined to reveal how many chartered flights had been operated since the airline's revival in August 2019, citing competition. And then she, however, disclosed that the airline rented out one of its Airbuses at about 420 million shillings to its manufacturer of exhibition at the Dubai Expo. The airline has operated chartered flights for athletes, and in 2020, President Yoweri Museveni paid about 81.4 billion shillings, which flew Joshua Cheptegei as the 10,000 meter world champion, and Halima Nakai, which also included Stephen Kisa and Winnie Nanyondo, to Nairobi. The athletes then connected to Monaco for the Diamond League, still using the Uganda Airlines. And Bamturaki said the airline is focused in 2022 will be on investment in customer retention system, such as launching a frequent flyer program and special offers such as extra baggage for free, as well as seeking strategic partnerships, growing its cargo network and network expansion. Bamturachi added that the airline plans to acquire facilities such as customs border warehouses and cold rooms, and in the financial year 2021-2022, the airline was allocated 117.6 billion shillings out of the 195 billion requested. And the budget shortfall means that the airline can only buy a spare engine for the 4 CRJ900 aircraft and start self-handling after July, because it needs shillings 47 billion to, among others, buy equipment. And the government allocated 97.6 billion for the airline's operation, which also included capitalization and settlement of bills to Uganda's Civil Aviation Authority, and 20 billion shillings for wages of the over 390 staff that was that has actually been in place for the Uganda Airlines. Well, let's as well sum up this press review with more of what is regarding the European Union, which has reached a deal on new legislation to combat illegal content online. Now, the European Council said Saturday that it has reached a provisional political agreement with the European Parliament on a new legislation to combat the hate speech, which also includes disinformation and other harmful content online. So this one is basically targeting online content that is depressive, that has actually created a number of people to actually quit social media. The agreement was actually reached after negotiators from the Council and the Parliament agreed on a provisional text for new rules to make the internet a safer space for European citizens, as talks began on Friday hours of Saturday. And according to the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, the DSA gives practical effect to the principle that what is illegal offline should be illegal online. So this is according to the European Commission President, who said that the practical effect of the principle of the DSA shows that what is illegal offline should as well be illegal online. Not something being illegal offline, or let's say in the proper context of society, and then it seems legal on the online platforms. And we've actually seen how people have actually been able to violate societal rules and societal situations by making them seem okay and legal online, because someone will come out online and insult you in one way or the other, and clearly, which shows you that for a situation this clearly will treat you in a more conversant or more situation whereby we get to understand that even on social media in Uganda, we've had cases whereby people have been mentally depressed and have been mentally they've actually got a very huge challenge with social media, because there's a lot of hate speech on social media. People will actually try to criticize you in one way or the other, and you've heard of the saying where people will tell you social media is not for the weak-hearted, because at the end of the day, social media is more that actually gives room for violence in terms of written violence. So it is when someone can use written speech to put you down or pull you down emotionally, and a lot happens on social media, and this clearly shows you why most of the people are definitely feeling out of place on social media. Why? Because social media is clearly showing them that, hey, this is not your place. And in society, surprisingly, with this generation that we are having, a changing generation, is that the generation has definitely changed to a situation whereby most people think that the space, or let's say the social media space, is definitely creating no room for people to actually get to understand that once something is illegal in society, people are actually free to actually write it down on social media. And this is what the European Union wants to scrap off, because on social media, if someone cannot say something in society or amongst the people in the neighborhood, they run to social media, write it down, because one, with social media, it is very difficult for you to tell where this person is. Someone can tweet something, someone can post something when they're actually out of the country. That is why most people here in Uganda, or most of the people who are actually against the government, do not write hate speech or do not actually criticize the government with a lot of abusive language when they're in the country. They first take a flight, go out of the country, then start sending in all the abusive texts to the leaders and all that, because they do believe that is not a societal norm. It is not legal in terms of the society. But the best way they can do it is because on social media, they can promote their hate speech, and they know that is the only avenue that is there. So, and this is what the European Union is actually going through to actually prevent. And the provision of the political agreement will have to be rubber stamped by the European Council and the European Parliament before the legislation goes into effect. So that is where you can definitely see what is coming in from there. So clearly, I would definitely agree with social media, because many people, not only in the European Union, in the European continent, or in the United States, the Western world, are quitting social media because of the hate speech that is associated to it, but because there is a lot of depression that can be created out there. People out there are dying because of depression, are dying because someone went out there and targeted them using the online platforms. Someone tweeted, someone texted, or someone posted something onto a social media platform and was hitting them directly or even indirectly, but the message hit home. So this is why the EU has reached a deal on new legislation to combat illegal content online. So the illegal content online details also content that as well promotes violence, domestic violence mainly, that promotes hate, that actually promotes a lot of things to create a better world for people on social media. And that is where we are definitely looking at it. And also, summing up this one, I wouldn't want to leave the press review without touching this one. The members of parliament have pushed for a release of 440 billion shillings for the Entebbe airport expansion. That is the Parliamentary Committee on Physical Infrastructure that wants the government to release 440 billion shillings for the second phase of the upgrading and expansion of Entebbe International Airport. The committee chairperson, David Karuhanga, did say that says the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority has completed close to 80% of the expansion project, but however needs more money. So 80% of the first phase is completed, and And Karubanga told journalists that while touring the airport, that the finance ministry needs to commit itself and it will have to increase the funds so that the second phase early next year. Well, that is it with the press review. A total of 3 stories that are making headlines from the papers. Now let's get back to the SMB reports. And there is a very huge concern when we mention about fuel prices on the rise, and let's say a number of commodities increasing. There was always a sign that the taxi fares would increase, and it's on this same matter that we're heading into the increasing taxi fares. Last week, the Taxi Operators Association and the taxi operators had a sit down, and they came up with new routes and new routes prices, because they could not keep up with the rising fuel prices, and yet their prices are still stable. So the Federation of the Taxi Industry in Uganda did announce the